Okay, in this lesson, we're going to discuss solving a right triangle or utilizing SOH. Hopefully you remember that SOH is sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a few examples here. We're going to look at three of them where you're going to be solving the triangles. Now, one of the things I want to point out to you as you're solving these is you want to make sure that you utilize the information given in the picture. And what I mean by that is if I'm solving for B, I want to use the angles given. If I'm solving for A and C, I want to use the other two pieces of information given. In other words, I don't want to solve for an angle or solve for a side and then utilize that side to find another side because that may not give us an accurate answer. So the first thing I want to do is I want to find angle B in this picture. We know that in this picture, this is a right triangle, so these two angles here have to add up to 90. So to find angle B, 90 minus 53.4 is going to give me angle B. If I subtract 90 minus 53.4, I get 36.6 degrees, and that is the measure of angle B. So I can fill that into my picture. Now, I also want to solve the whole triangle, so I'm going to next find the measure of side A. Well, with relation to this angle given and these two sides, this would be the opposite, this would be the adjacent. So to find A, I'm going to use the tangent of 53.4 is equal to the opposite, which is A over 5.6. So to solve this, I'm going to do the tangent of 53.4 in my calculator. I'm then going to multiply that by 5.6. So A in this case is going to be 7.6. Again, this is rounded to the nearest tenth. So this side over here is 7.6. Now I'm going to go ahead and go about finding the measure of side C. So C, with relation to this angle, is the hypotenuse. So using the adjacent and the hypotenuse, I'm going to say the cosine of 53.4 is equal to 5.6 over C. And now I'm going to go ahead find the cosine of 53.4. Now C, notice here, is on the bottom of the fraction. So another way of writing this would be C is equal to 5.6 divided by the cosine of 53.4. That'll help you with typing it into your calculator. So 5.6 divided by the cosine of 53.4. And hopefully when you go through that process with your calculator, C is going to be 9.4, which is a good sign because that is my hypotenuse, and that should be longer than both sides, A and this 5.6. Okay, for example 2, on this one, notice now we're not given any of the angles other than the right angle. So I'm going to start with my sides. This is one where I've got the two legs and I want to find the hypotenuse. So probably a good start here. This one, I'm just going to go ahead and do the Pythagorean theorem. 7 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. We know that 7 squared is 49, 8 squared is 64, and that's equal to c squared. If we add 49 and 64, I get 113 equals c squared. And if I take the square root, that's going to tell me that C is approximately 10.6. So there's my missing side. Now, if I want to find my missing angle, let's go ahead and focus on A first. So with the given two sides with relation to A, this would be the opposite this would be the adjacent. So if I do the tangent of A is equal to 7 over 8, then to find A, I have to do the inverse tangent of 7 over 8. And if I type that into my calculator, inverse tangent of 7 over 8, A would be 41.2 degrees. So there's my angle A. And if I want to go ahead then and find angle B, I'm then going to just go ahead then and do 90 minus the 41.2, which 90 minus 41.2 gives me 48.8 degrees. So that would be angle B, 48.8 degrees. Okay, why don't you go ahead and try this one on your own. This is example 3. Again, we're solving for A, B, and C, or A twice and then B. I guess there's no C here. So go ahead and pause the video, work through them all, and then once you're finished, unpause it and check your work. Okay, so I'm going to start with A. To find A, I'm going to take 90 minus 43.9, which when I do that, I get A to be 46.1 degrees. So there's my missing angle. Now, with relation to the 43.9, I have the hypotenuse, and we'll call A the adjacent side. So what I would do is I would do the cosine of 43.9 is equal to A over 0.86, which is the hypotenuse. Now basically here I'm going to type into my calculator cosine of 43.9 and multiply that by 0.86, and I should get an A value here of 0.62. So A is 0.62. That's that length. Again, it should be smaller than the hypotenuse, and it is. Now to find B with relation to this side and this angle is the opposite. So on this one, I would do the sine of 43.9 is equal to B over 0.86, which is pretty similar to what we just did on the previous cosine problem. I'm going to do the sine of 43.9 times 0.86. And when I do that, I get B to be approximately 0.60. Again, that's rounded. So B would be 0.60. And that's a quick lesson there on solving a right triangle. Again, this is pretty important, especially as we move into the next lesson that relates to angle of elevation and angle of depression.